to America now and leaving behind many of the controversies he is fighting off at home, like the issue of Russia and the impact it may or may not have had on the presidential election. Donald Trump set off on his marathon visit to Asia today. There is, of course, one major problem he'll be walking right into on his 11-day tour of the Far East: what to do about North Korea. But as he was setting off to deal with all that, his final thoughts were on the terror attack in New York.
This lengthy trip to Asia is the most diplomatically challenging of his presidency. But as he left the White House, Donald Trump was first vowing vengeance not on North Korea, but on ISIS, following the terrorist attack in New York.
When we have an animal do an attack like he did the other day on the west side of Manhattan, we are hitting them 10 times harder. They claimed him as a soldier. Good luck. Every time they hit us, we know it's ISIS. We hit them like you folks won't believe. Thank you.
But his 12-day trip to Asia is going to be dominated by the issue of North Korea and how he proposes to disarm Kim Jong-un. There are some reports circulating that the North Korean leader may seek to disrupt Trump's visit to the region by launching fresh missile tests. The Trump administration has repeatedly warned that the window for a diplomatic solution is quickly closing, although a military option would almost certainly escalate into a potentially catastrophic regional conflict. Trump's national security advisor says it's not the president who is risking war.
I've been aware of the discussions about, hey, is this inflammatory? No, what's inflammatory is the North Korean regime and what they're doing to threaten the world. I think there would be a grave danger if that regime didn't understand our resolve, the president's resolve, to counter North Korean aggression.
For analysts, that sort of talk is deeply alarming.
I would hope it's bluster. I think there's a growing fear among many of us who follow this that Trump is seriously considering it. And McMaster keeps talking about this. There is no military option unless you're prepared to accept the deaths of tens and perhaps hundreds of thousands of people.
But the president does have two relationships in Asia that he believes to be strong.
Please, look at me.
He has forged a close bond with the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. They've even become golfing partners.
Thank you, everybody.
And Trump is also relying on a relationship he has nurtured with President Xi of China. The two leaders will debate both trade issues and how best to contain North Korea. This is a trip that will see him meeting with strong allies, economic rivals, and notably, a number of Asia's most authoritarian leaders. Robert Moore, News at 10, Washington.
And let's chat to our correspondent, Debbie Edward in Beijing. Now, Debbie, Robert was talking about some of the leaders there, but this is a tricky visit for Donald Trump. He doesn't particularly get on with the South Korean leader, does he? And as for President Duterte of the Philippines, I remember you very memorably reporting on his policy on drug addicts and drug dealers, controversial to say the very least. How do you think this visit is going to go?
Well, there is a great deal of expectation and no small measure of intrepidation here in Asia. This is a US president who came into office and torpedoed the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a free trade pact in the region, and then started stoking tensions with North Korea, labelling Kim Jong-un Little Rocket Man. President Trump is going to be met with large protests in South Korea, where he is described as the war-mongering president. It will be North Korea, as Robert says, which dominates this visit. But the two most anticipated meetings, perhaps, are between President Duterte in the Philippines and President Xi Jinping here in China. Donald Trump describes his president-to-president relationship with Xi Jinping as the best there is, and that will certainly be how it appears on camera. But behind the scenes, the two men have some tough talking to do on North Korea and a trade deficit which Donald Trump has described as embarrassing and horrible. Then at the end of his trip comes that meeting with President Duterte in the Philippines, a president who has sanctioned the deaths of thousands of drug users and drug dealers. So it will be interesting to see how Donald Trump navigates that particular diplomatic meeting.
OK, Debbie, the best there is. Let's see how that goes. Thank you very much indeed.